Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Cavan-Smith. Tonight, Buba Galadima takes on the authority of President Muhammadu Buhari by leading a rival faction of the ruling APC party. The breakaways say that Buhari's leadership is a mess and threaten his chances in next year's elections. Also, in Equatorial Guinea, an amnesty is declared for political prisoners. President Teodoro Obiang Nguema made the move ahead of a national dialogue due to start on the 16th. But many are sceptical it's much more than political theatre. And in Central African Republic, young people trying to overcome the divisions created by years of conflict and unrest turned to Brazilian culture. Group of the Afro-Brazilian martial art of Capoeira has sprung up in Bongi. But first, in Nigeria, a group of disgruntled politicians have formed a breakaway faction within the ruling All Progressives Congress. The reformed All Progressives Congress is led by Buba Galadima, a former ally of President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, Galadima's factions slammed Buhari's presidency, calling it a monumental disaster. The 75-year-old was planning to seek another term in next year's elections, but his candidacy does depend on party approval. The discontent within the APC could well continue to deepen, and the speculation the faction could even leave completely and start its own rival party. Well, we're joined now by Sam Olukoya. Sam, who are the members of the RAPC and why are they so unhappy with Buhari's leadership?
Well, it's important to put it in context that the member of these people that are leaving are a group that joined the APC. They were part of the formation of the APC and they left from the former ruling party. And joining in the APC was instrumental to the APC getting into power. These people consist of governors, consist of parliamentarians, the Senate president is there, the Speaker of the House of Representatives is there. So we have quite a number of political heavyweights who are in this reformed APC. In terms of why they are leaving, they said President Buhari has not really performed up to expectation. They cite issues of insecurity, they cite issues of welfare of the people, and they said the final straw was a Congress held across the states, local government, and at the federal level, which was not fair enough. And based on that, they felt they should form their own parallel body in the party so as to take control of the party.
So how is this going to affect Buhari's hopes of getting re-elected next year?
Well, I think this is the most significant challenge so far to President Buhari's aspiration to get to power, to return to power next year. If you have a group that was instrumental to his getting to power, pulling out or withdrawing its support for him, then it's quite a big blow. And you also have to consider the fact that President Buhari is not as popular as he was 3 years ago when he came to power. So it's as if his support base is beginning to reduce. The disgruntled members who are leaving were instrumental to his coming in. Christians were instrumental to his coming in, but these Christians are complaining that herdsmen are killing them, and so he's going to lose quite some support. If by chance he wins the election, I think the long-term implication is that these people are going to team up with others, and it will be that President Buhari will run a cabinet or will run a system where he will have a minority government. He wouldn't have that more than 50% support. So these people are likely to work against him, and if he wins, then it might not be smooth sailing for him because they might be in the opposition and they will team up with the opposition and form a stronger alliance against his own party.
Thanks very much. Sam Olukoya there for us in Lagos. Now, in other news, Africa's longest-serving leaders declared an amnesty for political prisoners. President Teodoro Obiang Nguema made the move ahead of national dialogue that's due to start on the 16th of July. The government's meant to come together with members of the opposition for talks, but many are sceptical that the amnesty offered by Obiang is much more than political theatre ahead of that meeting. Now, Obiang's been in power since 1979, and a similar promise of political amnesty was made in 2014 but never materialised. Indira Ayuk tells us more.
The announcement read out on national television in Equatorial Guinea states that all persons who were jailed or sentenced to jail terms by courts in the country are now free to go about their different activities. The amnesty is also open to political prisoners and persons who have been barred from carrying out political activity in the Central African country. It should be noted that this is coming less than 2 weeks to the national dialogue scheduled to hold between the 14th and the 21st of July 2018, called for by the President Teodoro Obiang Nguema, who has been in power since 1979. Now, observers and the international community, as well as Equatorial Guineans residents in the diaspora, are also welcome to be part of the dialogue, which is meant to get the country out of its current tense atmosphere, and that their liberty and safety will be assured by the presidency. The opposition, which, by the way, called for the national dialogue or called for the amnesty as a way to lure them into the national dialogue, is skeptical about the announcements.
Now, Djibouti is on its way to create the biggest free trade zone on the continent. The ceremony was held on Thursday to celebrate the kicking off of the pilot phase of a project aimed at making the small nation a trade and logistics hub. Julia has more.
For years, Djibouti, with its population of less than 1 million, was seen by foreign powers as little more than a far-flung military outpost. But that may be about to change. The government wants to turn it into Africa's leading trade and logistics hub.
Djibouti's International Free Trade Zone is a flagship project in this regard. It culminates a significant number of infrastructure projects that are helping to strengthen Djibouti's place in international trade and commerce.
The Free Trade Zone, which was launched on Thursday, is scheduled to be completed 10 years from now and to cost $3.5 billion. The government hopes free tax incentives and a full logistical support will attract foreign investment and therefore create new jobs. If it succeeds, it will impact the entire region, especially landlocked countries like Rwanda.
I just wanted to say how happy I am to be joining you, Mr. President, for the inauguration of this very important facility that will not only serve Djibouti, but also the wider region of our continent.
The development of Djibouti's infrastructure is also critical to China. It has funded much of the small country's recent growth. 3 Chinese companies are running the free trade zone along with Djibouti's government, who says the country will become a gateway for Asia into Africa.
Look now at some news in brief. Ethiopia's new leader continues to bring in reforms. On Thursday, 3 groups were removed from the list of terror organisations as Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed tries to mend fences with the political opposition. Ginbot 7, the Oromo Liberation Front and the Ogaden National Liberation Front have had their terror designations lifted by Parliament. All had been the targets of bloody counterinsurgency operations, and rights groups have long accused Ethiopia of using allegations of involvement with the group as pretext to jail journalists and opposition figures. At least 17 people have been killed in clashes between al-Shabaab extremists and clan militia in Somalia's semi-autonomous region of Galmudug. Fighting reportedly broke out there in the Haradir area, where on Wednesday, after locals objected to calls from the militant group for teenagers to be recruited into their ranks. The mayor of the northern British city of Sheffield banned US President Donald Trump from ever visiting. Council leader Majid is of Somali origin and left an Ethiopian refugee camp to arrive in the UK city at the age of 5. Now, he was elected to office in May and at just 28 became Sheffield's youngest ever mayor. He tweeted that Trump was banned because he is a waste man, and I'm led to believe that is not a good thing. Well, in Central African Republic, young people trying to overcome the divisions between Muslim and Christian communities caused by years of conflict have turned to Brazilian culture. A group of the Afro-Brazilian martial art of Capoeira has sprung up in the capital as a way of building bridges. Nicolas Chemin tells us more.
The These youths meet up every Sunday in the stadium in the capital Bangui to play Capoeira. It's an Afro-Brazilian art form that combines dance, martial arts and acrobatics. It was developed by African slaves in Brazil. Many of the people here fled the Central African Republic in 2013 when the civil war broke out and only returned several years later.
We sought refuge in Congo, and that's where I discovered Capoeira. The reason I wanted to do it is because I like its non-violent aspect. Two people are playing around, but they never touch each other. It's a good philosophy.
The conflict in the Central African Republic has often been between Muslim and Christian communities.
Often here, Christians say to their children, Muslims are killing us. And Muslims say, don't talk to Christians. They don't like us. We say, look, our communities are divided. Let's organize capoeira lessons and get the children to do this together. And now we have more than 285 children coming here.
The Capoeira Association in Bangui wants to expand and receive more students, but it's currently facing a serious lack of funds.
That's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us, and do so again if you can. Take care.
Revisited, presented by Stuart Norval.
The election of Adama Barrow in 2016 filled Gambians with hope. After 22 years of autocratic rule, Yahya Jammeh was beaten in the elections. His expulsion from the country drew a curtain on a past stained by imprisonment, murder and corruption. But will the new Gambia promised by the president live up to expectations?
Revisited on France 24 and France24.com.